What up everyone, it is Toshi and today we're going to be talking about Aboard in Japan's new book, 10 Years in the Land of the Rising Sun. So for those of you who don't know who Aboard in Japan is a British YouTuber slash filmmaker that has lived in Japan since 2012 and has since made many different videos on his YouTube channel covering many different aspects of Japanese culture, etiquette, food, standards. And his videos include everything from what it's like to teach English in Japan, to Japan's obsession with pachinko parlors, to what it's like being vegan in Japan, at least for 24 hours. Like, his content is so diverse in its range that I couldn't even begin to sit here and describe and cover the topics that he covers on his channel. I've been a fan of his channel for a few years. Chris, if you're watching this, hi, big fan. But yeah, seriously, I'll leave the links to his channel in the description. If you haven't checked him out already, you 100% should. But to be fair, I don't know why you'll be watching this video if you don't already know who he is. But anyways, let's get into the actual book. So the book contained, I believe it was 27 chapters. I want to double check though. The book contained 29 chapters and all 29 were great. And Chris covered everything from his experience as an English teacher in Japan to meeting his best friend Natsuki for the first time and their journey together, you know, throughout their friendship as time has gone on, to climbing Mount Fuji, to even receiving an award on national Japanese TV and giving a speech in Japanese in front of a room full of Japanese people during his first few years in Japan. I want to say that happened within his first 2 to 3 years, but I'm not too sure. But this book was great. It covered so many aspects of Japanese culture and life in Japan that a lot of other books and TV shows and documentaries wouldn't cover, which is partly why I'm such a fan of the Aboard in Japan channel, because it covers Japanese culture and the country of Japan in a very different way to all these other YouTube channels and documentaries. I feel like all these other documentaries and channels about Japan and Japanese life and Japanese culture sort of try to portray Japan as some sort of alien world, some sort of like different dimension, and it's completely understandable why, you know, from a Western perspective. You know, if you're from the UK or if you're from the USA, life in Japan, you know, particularly from the way that the internet portrays it and TV portrays it, does genuinely seem like a whole different planet. But that's why I like Aboard in Japan so much, because his channel and his work is there to remind you that yes, whilst all these amazing, great, crazy, wacky things do exist inside of Japan, Japanese people are just like every other society and civilization on Earth. We are all human. We all share similar, if not the same issues, and we all go through the same things. And that's why I like his channel so much, because it presents Japan as just a country. You get what I mean? Not some sort of like foreign alien planet that like nobody's ever been to before, you know? And his topics are great. He covers everything from Japanese food to Japanese etiquette, what to do in Japan, what not to do in Japan, what life is like as a foreigner in Japan looking for apartments, etc, etc. His book is great, and honestly, if you haven't checked it out, you 100% should. It is available on Amazon, which is where I got it from. And Chris talks about how, you know, moving to a completely different country and the culture shock, it can really mess with your mind and mess with your feelings. It can really get overwhelming for you. But he doesn't just come up and say, you know, life in Japan is hard, I was having panic attacks, etc, etc, and then just cut it off there. You know, he offers solutions, and he says that, you know, even though these panic attacks were really difficult and he was really struggling at the time, life in Japan was just so amazing and so different, and he was just so grateful to be able to have that opportunity, that these panic attacks and these struggles that he were having didn't seem worth leaving the country and leaving his life behind, which I'm really glad, you know. I know like mental health for a lot of people can be very overwhelming, and sometimes it is very difficult not to give into those feelings, but to be able to immerse yourself in a brand new culture like that, just completely, because Chris didn't really, as he said in the book, he didn't really have a lot of knowledge or experience about or with Japan before moving there. He essentially just got up and decided to move. It was a little bit more complicated than that, but he had essentially just got on the plane with pretty much no knowledge about Japan aside from he watched The Last Samurai. And I mean, and you know, good movie to an extent, but not really an accurate representation of modern Japanese culture. That's why one of the reasons I like his channel so much, because he covers culture shock. And as a British person, it's just really entertaining and it really resonates with me, because he speaks about how if you were told him when he was 18 that if he'd be living in Japan, you know, since 2012, and he'd have a huge community and YouTube channel, that he wouldn't have believed you. And as a British person, it is very easy to understand that. And I find that quite funny and entertaining and relatable, because to a lot of British people, you know, the idea of, oh, I'm going to move halfway across the planet and have a big YouTube channel and cover, you know, topics of Japanese culture, controversy, disasters, you know, stuff like that. Most British people would be like, never going to happen. You're not. You're going to work at a fish and chip shop, you know, you're going to be a waiter, and you're just going to live in the UK forever like the rest of us. You know, it's very, success is looked upon very differently in the UK than I feel like it is in the US. I feel like in the USA, they have this idea of sort of, you know, chase your dreams, you can be anything you want. But is in the UK, we sort of like to throw our hopes and dreams in the bin as a sense of humour and as a coping mechanism, rather than actually chasing them, which is quite sad, but we're not here to talk about that. But all in all, I mean, this book was great. There was just so much unique and rich content in this, and I couldn't possibly begin to cover every single little thing in this book in this video. But if you want to live in Japan one day, like I do, or if you are a fan of the Abroad in Japan YouTube channel, or even if you're just interested in Japanese culture and what it is like living in Japan, what life is like in Japan, you should 100% check out this book and check out Chris's YouTube channel as well, Abroad in Japan. Like I said, I'll leave all the links in the description below. But no, all in all, this book was great. It just covered so much unique detail and aspects of Japanese life and culture that you just wouldn't find covered or talked about on any other platform or by any other content creator that lives in Japan. Maybe aside from like a select few, but even then I can't begin to think of any. But no, that pretty much does it. Like, you know, it's a book. I can't go into too much detail, otherwise, you know, it would defeat the whole point of reading it. But no, you should 100%, all of you, check this book out. And like I said, it's available on Amazon. So yeah, hope you all enjoyed this video. If you did, please leave a like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you all in the next one. This is Toshi, signing out.